is getting on down the road. On the rock on the line, it's a mighty good road. On the rock on the line, it's a road to ride. On the rock on the line, it's a mighty good road.
How far back does this go?
So what is this? Alan Lomax recorded this. I actually forget the date. It's I think in the 30s, let's say. The pacing of this song, very much almost like a. Think of it as a horse gallop almost. It's nice and slow. Jimmy Page, the great guitarist, didn't hear this version at first. What he heard was 1955 on a radio station in England, and that was a version by a fellow named Lonnie Donegan.
Okay, let me stop you right there. Here's a little more of Leadbelly doing it.
Yeah.
On the rock on the line, it's a mighty good road. On the rock on the line, it's a road to ride.
All right, so that's Leadbelly in the 1930s, and here is that Lonnie Donegan version 20 years later.
She said, but I fooled you, I got pig iron, I got pig iron, I got pig iron. He said, tell you I'm no more, going down the rock island line, yes, she's a...
Right, so this is kind of a mix of what was called skiffle music. Skiffle music was really influential to the Beatles, to so many of the British bands that would come 5 and 6 and 7 years later, and to Jimmy Page, who heard this song. Now, when Jimmy Page was a younger kid and he moved into a house with his family, in that house, in a closet, was an old sort of parlor-style, campfire-style guitar. He didn't pick it up. No one picked it up. It just existed in the house. But Page went to school, heard this song on the radio, and not long after went to school. And there was a kid in school with a guitar. Now, in the 1950s, that wasn't normal. Guitars were not in the hands of everybody until really in the 60s when the Beatles came along. So Page sees this kid playing Rock on Line at school, and he says, I want to learn how to do it. Hey, I have a guitar at home. And the kid, Rod, I don't remember his last name, says to Jimmy, bring in the guitar, I'll teach how to play. But picked up the guitar that was in the closet, brought it in. It had all the strings, which finding strings might well have been impossible back then. There weren't guitar shops everywhere. It had all the strings. He learned how to play, and the rest is history. And
the rest is this kind of history.
Yeah.
So you can hear A to B to C there, Leadbelly to Lonnie Donegan to early Led Zeppelin.
Right, and when you think of what Lonnie Donegan did to the blues music was kind of like, if you think of that sort of horse pace I talk about, which is this very slow pace of the Leadbelly, and think of Donegan as like the steam engine, and Jimmy Page is like the electric locomotive, and Jimmy Page just lit up blues with his bandmates, of course, in Led Zeppelin, Robert Plant and John Bonham and John Paul Jones. But there was a fire in that music that happened that had never happened before. And so the connection between the music Page fell in love with, the skiffly, bluesy song, and the music he would go on to make is not, I mean, it's a straight line. Sometimes the lines weren't as straight, but sometimes it's just a plain straight line.
We'll give him a few seconds here.
You bet.
Brian Lehrer on WNYC with Bob Boilen, host and creator of NPR's All Songs Considered, and his new book, Your Songs Changed My Life. All right, another artist in Your Song Changed My Life is the Motown legend Smokey Robinson. And you write that you began a show with him one time in an unusual way for you, with the music of someone other than the guest. In this case, as we roll a little here, Jackie Wilson. Why'd you play this for Smokey Robinson, and what did he say about Jackie Wilson changing his life?
So I said to Smokey, look, so I'm sorry, I want to start off with a piece of music, Smokey, that isn't your music, but I think I know that you love this music. And I play Lonely Teardrops by Jackie Wilson, and he says, no, Bob, you're wrong. That is my music. Jackie Wilson and that kind of R&B from the 50s was exactly what Smokey was growing up on, and it's the music he wanted to make and as an artist. And it wasn't really the song that changed his life. Unlike almost anyone else in the book, Smokey Robinson picked a song that was his very own song, which I just love that. And he picked a song called Shop Around.
And we get Smokey Robinson songs like this, in addition to Shop Around in the early 1960s. And I don't know about you, Bob, but I hear the Jackie Wilson in this.
Oh, absolutely, right?
I don't like you, but I love you. Seems that I'm always.
I mean, the songs, they're tender, they're sincere, full of heart, and the singing style and the harmonies are, you know, they're not too distant from one another. But, you want to hear a little more?
Sure, a little bit more. But you can finish your thought.
Yeah, so when Smokey started making music, he teamed up with a fellow named Berry Gordy, who we now, of course, know as the fellow who helped start Motown Records. And Smokey had a group, the Miracles, and Smokey, but was a songwriter, and he wrote this song called "Shop Around," which Berry Gordy released on his label by Barrett Strong. And it was an okay song. It was kind of a bluesy number. And one day Berry Gordy woke up and he said, "I got this idea for Shop Around." He called Smokey Robinson. This story Smokey tells, it's 2 or 3 in the morning. He says, "Shop Around won't let me sleep. You got to get the band together. We're going to the studio." And they go into the studio. Berry Gordy rearranges Shop Around with this much more poppy sound, and the song comes out, and it sells 1 million. And that selling of 1 million made it possible for all of us in our lives who lived through the 60s, and even, look, anybody today who listens to any kind of R&B and pop music knows the Motown sound. And it was this song that helped make that possible.
All right. Now, before you go, you chose the music bumpers between the All Things Considered stories for 18 years. How many songs do you think that was?
Wow, that's a question. So if I chose 6, let's say I chose 10, we'll round it out. 10 a day, 300 days a year, let's say that's 3,000 songs times 18 is 30,000, 54,000 songs if my math in my head is okay.
So
Somebody might correct me.
How many times would each song be used before it needed to be retired?
Oh, I was a fan of playing things that was familiar. I liked repeating songs. I think it gave people a sense of, oh yeah, that one, and they became part of the show by hearing the familiarity. So I only retired stuff when I feel like I'd overused it, but I liked repetition, so we'll knock it down to 40,000.
Do they get labeled like music after a campaign story, music after a sad story, anything like that?
It was all in my head. I labeled almost nothing. When I first started working, there were little carts, like 8-track tapes that we used that I inherited at the very beginning, and I put up arrows or up and side arrows. So up would be after a story with an upbeat mood, side arrow would be a neutral story, and down arrow would be after a depressing or sad story. But I came in right in '88, started doing it right when we started getting lots of CDs, and I just started an entire library, which was by the end was about 5,000 CDs, and I could go to that library, look at the spines of the library, and just pick out what I thought was the right music.
So this has been fun. It's been fun to put a little bit of a soundtrack to a couple of the chapters in your book. Is there kind of a musically annotated version?
No, but there is always a future.
Right. Well, you just have to come back over and over again, and we'll do it for all the other. I want to do it for Regina Carter and Lucinda Williams, a whole bunch of other people in your book. But this is really been fun to do it for Led Zeppelin's Jimmy Page and Smokey Robinson, and a little bit of you with how the Beatles, A Day in the Life, changed your life. So Bob Boilen, host and creator of NPR Music's All Songs Considered, now the author of Your Song Changed My Life. Bob, thanks a lot.
What a pleasure. Thanks.
A MacBook Pro laptop, new Bose speakers, an Otterbox smartphone case, a Sonos sound system, all could be yours when you donate to WNYC right now. Your name will be automatically entered to win a $4,000 gift certificate from TechServe, the Apple specialist on West 23rd Street near 6th Avenue. The gift certificate can be used on any products or services from TechServe, including the entire family of Apple products, plus a selection of accessories, cases, bags, and gear. If you're a sustaining member, you're already entered. If not, become a member today. Contribute now to win.
So for the music that's going to change your life now and in the future, and maybe your kids' lives, you might want to have some of the latest technology, and one of you will win a $4,000 gift certificate to TechServe, which sells Apple computer products. They're sort of the original Apple Store before there was the Apple Store. And this contest, folks, closes up at noon, so 19 minutes. And we're not going to talk for the next 19 minutes. We don't do that. We have another whole segment of the show to go. But we are going to say last call. If you want to support WNYC before the end of our spring membership drive here, why not support it when you're going to be automatically entered to win a $4,000 gift certificate to TechServe? 888-376-WNYC to do it right now. 888-376-9692, or donate online at WNYC.org. David First back with me in the studio. Hi, David.
Hey, it's great to be here, and we are here because this is WNYC's Spring Pledge Drive. We're looking to raise the funds necessary to make the Brian Lehrer Show possible and everything else you listen to here at WNYC. And every weekday for more than 25 years, Brian has been helping us better understand the world, bringing you into the conversation. He is one of the people you depend on here at WNYC, and we rely on you to support Brian, one of the unique programs you listen to here at WNYC. It is your financial support that keeps shows like the Brian Lehrer Show alive and strong. We're asking you to contribute now, either at the website, WNYC.org, or by calling 888-376-9692. Just a little over 15 minutes left to get in on the $4,000 TechServe gift certificate giveaway when you call 888-376-9692. But you get so much here on the Brian Lehrer Show: political coverage, important analysis, great conversation, and we hear about music that changed our lives. It's a great mix there. Be one of the reasons why we're able to bring this to life every day. 888-376-9692, WNYC.org.
And you don't have to contribute to win. That's the law, and we certainly abide by that. So you can just go to WNYC.org and enter the contest or call up. But we certainly hope that everybody who does enter will support WNYC because you're listening, because you probably get a lot from WNYC over the course of a week, and because you think that if I'm going to have a public radio station that does things differently because it's funded by listeners and not by commercials, I want to be part of making that possible. So if you've already given during this drive, or you're a monthly sustainer, you're already entered to win the $4,000 gift certificate to TechServe, and we hope that if you're not already in those categories, that you'll donate right now and become a contestant as well. 888-376-WNYC, 888-376-9692, or online at WNYC.org as the contest closes in 17 minutes.
The road trip.
So excited. Here, I brought food. Nice. I took care of the mixtapes. Cool. Check it out.
Just call 1-888-376-WNYC. Or
Wait,
you can go online.
hold on. Is this last year's pledge drive?
Yep.
Awesome. Listen to this.
Well, one possibility is a WNYC
No way.
tote bag.
Is that Sarah Fishko talking about totes? Where did you find this?
I know someone who's cousins with Richard Hicks' neighbor's dog walker.
You haven't even heard the best one.
Get ready to have your mind blown.
At WNYC, we're always there for you.
Really serious? Are you serious?
Becoming a member of WNYC is the single most effective way to support the radio you're crazy about, without being all crazy about it.
And thank you for taking the time to pledge. We appreciate your support.
Whoa. We do appreciate your support when you call us at 888-376-9692 or when you give online at WNYC.org. And whether you're hearing about life-changing music here on The Brian Lehrer Show or jamming to old cassettes of pledge drives, let us know right now with a gift of support that The Brian Lehrer Show is an important part of your day. The way it works here is this is member-supported public radio. Listener contributions are the largest source of support for WNYC. So please, if you have a couple of free moments, take a moment right now and contribute at the level that works for you. 888-376-9692 or at WNYC.org. And thanks.
Coming next drive, Soterius Johnson, the bootleg tapes. Who knows? 888-376-WNYC, 888-376-9692, or donate online at WNYC.org. 15 minutes left to get your name into the hopper for the TechServe $4,000 gift certificate contest. And let's talk for a minute about how we pay for news. The old media advertising model of news is actually breaking down. And ironically, the experts now see the future of real journalism more in the nonprofit sector than ever before. Now, we always knew that listener support keeps journalism independent. Now it turns out that listener support is what keeps it financially viable as well. So please support independent news gathering and investigative reporting as we do it here at WNYC Newsroom by making a contribution now. 888-376-WNYC or online at WNYC.org.
And remember, every gift right now, every call, every gift online goes to enter you into that contest to win the $4,000 gift certificate to TechServe. But there's just about 12 minutes left to go in that contest. So if you've been thinking about giving during this spring pledge drive, why not take advantage of getting in on this contest right now, and you could end up with a really nice prize at the end of the day as well. Main reason to call is to support the programming you depend on here at WNYC when you call us at 888-376-9692 or when you give online at WNYC.org. Thank you so much.
We just got a great tweet from a loyal listener named Daniel who writes, "Convinced Dad to join me as a WNYC monthly sustainer. If he gives me the TechServe gift card, I can re-gift it for Father's Day."
Perfect. There you go. 888-376-9692, WNYC.org. Thank you very much.
One of the commercial media's biggest profit centers right now is political ads. One reason our political system is being drowned in special interest money is that the commercial broadcasting industry has successfully lobbied for this system. They are awash in political advertising now more than ever. You're seeing it and you're hearing it. WNYC, by contrast, is a nonpartisan, non-commercial station that takes no political advertising. And we are very proud in this crazy election year to depend on you, our listeners, as our primary means of support. That keeps us accountable to you rather than to the politicians and the pressure groups.
And just 12 minutes to go on this contest, and with Father's Day approaching, I guess there's some extra motivation. Call right now. We are giving away the $4,000 gift certificate to TechServe. the Apple specialists on 23rd Street in Manhattan. They carry all kinds of different Apple products, a selection of accessories, cases, bags, and gear, and you will be entered to win that gift certificate if you call before noon, and the number is 888-376-9692. You can give at wnyc.org and find out about all different thank you gifts available at different giving levels. But the main reason to call is because you want to know that you're one of the reasons why the Brian Lehrer Show is on every weekday here at WNYC, and that you get everything else that you get from NPR and the BBC and the WNYC newsroom. 888-376-9692. You make this possible. WNYC.org.
I happen to know, because I've used it, that they have a good repairs desk at TechServe too, and that alone could be worth it. Being able to go in and pay for reviving your old.
You can pay for repairs too.
That's right, for your old Apple products. Anyway, we're going to wrap this up in a minute and a half. So, David, first of all, thank you for your help this morning and your great work on Weekend Edition every weekend. And last call, I want to thank everybody for supporting the station. If you have already in 2016, and if you haven't, you know the reasons that WNYC is different from other radio stations, from commercial media in general. You know the relationship between member dollars and why the programming comes out differently. And this is last call for the TechServe contest. Hopefully a Brian Lehrer Show listener will win this $4,000 shopping spree. We say shopping spree, but you can use it in dribs and drabs over a long amount of time if you want, or split it up, give some to your dad, give some to your grad, keep some for yourself. 888-376-WNYC. The contest will close at noon, so 10 more minutes. 888-376-9692, or donate online at wnyc.org. Oh, I want to mention the two thank you gifts that we've been mentioning, in case people don't know about the New Yorker magazine subscription, a full year subscription to the print edition New Yorker, to your mailbox every week for the next year. That's always the number one thank you gift that people take for a $120 pledge or $10 a month. And the Brian Lehrer Show mug, which I'm happy to say has been very popular since we introduced it, and that comes with a free New York Values button thrown in, and that's for just a $96 donation to WNYC, or you can chop that up into $8 a month if you want. So take a thank you gift, be entered in the TechServe contest, and everybody, really, thanks a lot for doing your part, whatever it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. At 888-376-WNYC, 888-376-9692, or online at wnyc.org. Thanks again.
WNYC support comes from Adelphi University, now offering a part-time master's in education at their Garden City and Manhattan locations with a low student-to-faculty ratio. More at education.adelphi.edu. Janovic Paint and Decorating Center, whose newest location in Soho on the corner of Thompson and Broome Streets is now open, featuring Benjamin Moore and Hunter Douglas. More at janovic.com. The Starz original movie, The Dresser, starring Ian McKellen as the dresser to the troubled veteran actor Sir, played by Anthony Hopkins, premieres Monday, May 30th on Starz and on the Starz app. Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, offering cancer treatments such as immunotherapy and GPS-guided surgery, and working to find new ways to customize cancer care for their patients. Memorial Sloan Kettering, more science, less fear. WNYC is a media partner of Brooklyn Film Festival, aiming to promote creative artistic excellence without censure. 107 film premieres from 31 countries from June 3rd to 12th. Details at brooklynfilmfestival.org. On WNYC, and it's wild out there. We continue now taking a closer look at some of the plants and animals that listeners found and photographed for the station's Science Series Hypothesis to see how these creatures handle city life. You can see the hundreds of images tweeted and Instagram to WNYC with the hashtag WildNYC at wnyc.org/wildnyc, or on Instagram or Twitter, hashtag WildNYC. They feature a lot of furry and feathered creatures, but also some more ancient looking types
like shellfish. Pete Malinowski, director of the Billion Oyster Project, joins me now to talk about the part the oyster plays in making New York Harbor a home again to so many other plants and animals, and why New York needs a billion oysters in the first place. Pete, welcome back to WNYC.
Hi, Ryan. Thanks so much for having me.
And most people think of oysters and mud crabs and crayfish as food, but we don't eat the ones in the water here. So why do we need a billion oysters?
Well, first, New York Harbor used to be full of oysters. They were the dominant habitat type when settlers first arrived, and they provide food and habitat for hundreds of species of animals that filter the water to stabilize the bottom, and they make it possible for many, many other animals to grow and thrive in New York Harbor.
And how many are there now?
Well, I can't say for sure how many are present in the harbor. I can say for sure that we have planted 16.5 million over the last several years. But there's a few scattered about throughout the harbor, nowhere near what there used to be.
And is this actually a project to develop a number that approaches a billion actual oysters?
That's our goal in 20 years. By 2035, we hope to plant 1 billion live oysters in the harbor. But the goal is to restore a sustainable population. We want them to reproduce on their own.
So if we had a billion oysters, would the water be clean enough that we could eat them?
We will be able to eat the oysters in New York Harbor when we stop pouring raw sewage into the harbor. Then we can start having that conversation, but until that happens, it's off the table.
And what's the mechanism of the impact that oysters have positively on the water or the larger ecosystem?
So for water quality, they remove nitrogen through their feeding, and nitrogen is the primary pollutant that comes out through our wastewater treatment plants every day. They take the nitrogen in the form of algae and deposit it in the sediment where it's accessible to other animals and bacteria. But the habitat role they play is hugely important for making it possible for other animals to live in the harbor.
You come from a family of oyster farmers, I understand, correct?
That's true. I grew up on the Fishers Island Oyster Farm out east of Long Island Sound.
So there were people just in your parents' generation, or they're still making a living farming oysters?
There's actually a bit of an oyster renaissance going on right now. We just had an event on Thursday where 40 oyster farms from all three coasts were present shucking their oysters. And there's over 1,000 oyster farms on the East Coast now.
What's the life like? What did your father actually do, sort of day to day, month to month?
Well, my parents, and I think a lot of oyster farmers, are looking for a livelihood that is restorative, have a livelihood that doesn't have a negative impact on the environment, but actually a positive one. Oyster farms have the same positive ecosystem services that our reefs have. And the only reason they're there is because there's a farmer who's tending them and maintaining them. And so it's a really unique lifestyle in that you're having a positive impact on the environment.
So how do they reap? Does he put boots on up to his shoulders and then go wading out? Or do you actually have to go out in a boat and go a little further?
There's all different ways to do it. My father goes out in a boat with his crew and they access their oysters from the surface, but some men and women do farm on the bottom or in waders. Different ways to do it.
Parts of New York and New Jersey are built on oyster shells, right?
That's true. They used to use the shells as an additive for cement, so a lot of the older buildings and some of the streets were paved with oyster shells.
How far from the city do you have to get before you can eat the oysters raised around here?
Not in Bridgeport, but by Bridgeport, you're far enough out. And there's still some big oyster operations in off of Norwalk and some other places like that. So it's not that far. So.
Oysters aren't the most exciting creatures to look at, but you brought in a handful here, and in their ancient kind of way, they're really kind of beautiful, aren't they?
Yeah, I would disagree with you about them not being exciting to look at. I find them fascinating, but the way we grow them on shells, they grow in clusters as they would in the natural environment. And what's fascinating is every sort of square centimeter of surface area is covered with living things, whether it's tunicates or bryozoans or anemones, and that's just what an oyster reef would do in the wild.
And their rock-like structure has them as the building blocks for what's been dubbed oyster-tecture, like architecture, oyster-tecture in a new flood off Staten Island, right?
That's right. So oyster reefs, in the past, when they were these large three-dimensional reefs and there was hundreds of thousands of acres in the harbor, played a big role in calming waves and stabilizing shorelines. And now, through that work, oyster-tecture, which is now living breakwaters in collaboration with Scape Landscape Architecture, we're building a breakwater off of southern Staten Island where the oysters themselves will be sort of the icing on the cake. They'll go on top of the rock and cement breakwaters that are being built.
Breakwater, like a flood wall. Have you seen the effects of the oysters that have been put in the harbor? Any newly returned fish or shellfish, or is it too early?
Well, we see an almost almost immediate and dramatic change in local biodiversity when we put down a reef structure. So we'll put it down and go back in a few weeks, and where there was just a flat plain, with the three-dimensional structure, you see hundreds of different animals around those reefs. So I couldn't say that new species are returning, but they're certainly congregating around the reef structures that we put down.
In our Wild NYC photo gallery, someone sent in a picture of a mud crab. They eat oysters, right?
They do. They're one of the oyster predators, which people often think that we don't like, but oysters are an important food species for a lot of animals, for blackfish and oyster toadfish and blue crabs and mud crabs and oyster drills, and they're part of the ecosystem too.
So if there are more oysters, then there'll be more mud crabs?
That's true, yeah.
Is that a good thing, or is that a risk when using living creatures as water filters and building materials?
Well, it's one of our goals is to restore the habitat and to restore the ecosystem, and they're part of the ecosystem.
All right, so during this series on New York City's wildlife, we've heard about some of the programs for citizen scientists. And last question, is the Billion Oyster Project recruiting too?
We are, absolutely. We have a schools and citizen science program where we provide an oyster cage called a restoration station that goes at a waterfront site near your school or your business, and you can come out and get trained, get your restoration station, and play a part in this community of citizen scientists and schools that are participating in the project.
Fun, and I guess you do a lot of this in the summer, right?
Yeah, the schools are obviously less active in the summer, but there's a lot of oyster restoration going on in the summer.
And there